Hello, dear students. In this today's um, online class, we are discussing fiction. It's the third major genre of literature, and as is visible to you people on the screen, what is fiction? Uh, there are a number of ways to define fiction, but instead of going into them directly, I'd like to introduce you to the origin of fiction. uh, is visible to you people from old French fiction, dissimulation, ruse, invention, neglect, some disguise. Dissimulation means disguise, ruse, again referring to some imaginative or fabricating thing or invention which is not there. From Latin fictionem, causative of fictio, making, fashioning, or feigning, pretending to be, or rhetorical or legal fiction, from fingera to form, mold, shape, devise, feign. These are, how it originated, that from real life we move to certain creative life in which an author has his own world, his own people, his own mentality. Now, a number of ways it is defined, like one of the ways to define fiction is a verbal contrivance that is in some sense inaccurate, but that accomplishes a purpose, is in the treatment of husband and wife as one person or a corporation as an entity, means that it is a mixture or a creation with the help of words, a story which cannot be real in the sense that it doesn't deal with the real life incidents of people, but it accomplishes a purpose. It teaches a moral lesson. It gives some sort of consciousness towards the understanding of the relationship of human beings in the form of husband, wife, in the form of father, son, in the form of master and slave, in the form of uh, any other such category as there. And you would remember that we had been talking of the themes of literature in which we came across this thing that uh, experiences of human beings in various forms, like experience of man as an individual, man is a general human being, and then man against society, man against nature, and so many others. So these are brought together in a fiction story. Then another way to say it is a narrative explanatory material or belief that is not true or has been imagined or fabricated. So either it is imagined or it is fabricated. Literary type using invented or imaginative writing instead of real facts, usually written as prose. It's not written in poetry, it's written in prose. Then another way to say it is a narrative explanation or belief that may seem true but is false or fabricated. If I give you the example of, you might not have read novels till yet, but in your course you may have come across certain novels like Great Expectation was once included in the intermediate course. And you might have heard about Tessa Double. You might have heard about Richardson's Pamela. So in all these cases, or Henry Fielding's Joseph's Andrews, and also Henry Fielding's Tom Jones or Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. So in all these cases, the story is not a real one. Rather, it is being fabricated, keeping in mind the society and the things. But it explains, fiction explains life one way or the other. Then another way of saying, defining it is literary narratives collectively which portray imaginary characters or events specific novels and short stories, but we are not concerned with short stories at this moment. Rather, we are concerned only with novels. So we come to this thing that what is novel? E.M. Foster, a great novelist of modern England and also a critic on novelism, he defines a booklet, aspects of novel as a small booklet in which he refers to the definition of a French man named Abel Chevalet. So he defines it: fiction in prose of a certain extent, and aids that he defines extents is over 50,000 words. But according to modern Gray's Literary Dictionary and Hindi Currents Dictionary, it is up to 70,000 words. But whatever may be the case, you may consider that something, even if we go to American fiction, there we come to know this that even 30,000 words have been included into fiction, but then they are called novellas instead of novel. And why it is called novel? Because poetry was there from the very beginning and drama was there from the very beginning, but this novel was introduced somewhere in the 17th century uh, by the French. Michel de Cervantes' Don Quixote is the first novel considered in French, but a discussion is coming ahead. So the novel, however, arises from the desire to depict and interpret human character. The reader of a novel is both entertained and aided in a deeper perception of life's problems. So two things are there: human character. Human character means that what is his inner being, what kind of mentality and personality traits one has got. And the second important thing here is that the reader is entertained. He gets amused. He or she gets amused when reading that story. But at the same time, there is a deeper understanding of life and the problems of life as well. We are told by scholars that novel as a genre began in either in Latin or in French. But what about Japanese tale of Genji, which was written some 1100? The popular narrative about the origin of novel is, as I told you, 17th century, where the French novelist Cervantes wrote Don Quixote in the middle of or toward the ends of 17th century. But we have a novel from 11th century that is by a Japanese woman, and the title of that is Tale of Genji. It's a confusion. I don't know why this is not considered to be the origin of novel, and most of the people are relying on Cervantes' Don Quixote as the first novel written in English, in French language. Then in English, the tradition came a bit late. Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe is the first English novel. It was published somewhere in 1719, in the beginning of 18th century. Then Richardson entered the arena and he produced his remarkable work, Pamela, which was based on the philosophy that uh, virtue is always rewarded. I'm just giving a brief description of Pamela. Pamela is a girl and she is the mistress of a cunning man, and that cunning man, time and again, uh, tries to abuse her, to seduce her, but she refuses. And after a long resistance shown by Pamela, the master decides to him, marry Pamela, and from a maid servant she becomes the mistress of that house. So she had the virtue of being modest and chaste, and that virtue was rewarded by elevating her from maid servant to mistress of the house. But Henry Fielding didn't agree with this notion, and he wrote Joseph Andrews, in which he postulated this thought that virtue itself is a reward and it is not always rewarded. And then in Joseph Andrews, it happens that Joseph Andrews is seduced by his mistress, that is Lady Bodhi, and she tries and tempts him too much, but he refuses uh, to succumb to her desire, illegal desire or lustful desire. But instead of giving him the status of being her master or husband, Lady Booby terminates him from her services. So look at this now. This is a contradiction, and uh, without having any reward, Henry Fielding is of the opinion that he has virtue. Joseph Andrews has got virtue, and this virtue itself is a reward. He is in no need of any other reward. Now we are moving towards elements of fiction. So as we talked of drama, these are general because literature, plot, setting, characters, point of view, theme. These are the elements or essential elements are sometimes called components of fiction and so many other. So I just reread them: plot, setting, characters, point of view, theme. These are the five essential components, essential elements of novel. And if we refer to them in terms of that man whose aspects of novel we are talking, E.M. Foster. So instead of plot, he has used the term story. Instead of setting, he has used the term place. Instead of characters, he has used the term people, and point of view and theme are the same. Now, this is another slide about them. Every novel has these five elements: setting, when and where the story takes place, the city or the time, and in the next slide it will be coming in detail. Then characters, the people or sometimes animals, the story is about, but most probably in novels we cannot have animals as characters because that's a separate domain called fables where animals are incorporated as characters. And then plot, what happens in the story is the plot and how logically different incidents within the plot are connected with one another. Theme, the lesson the writer of the story is trying to teach the reader or the message which is the author wants to convert. But in this postmodern world and post-structuralist world, we are supposed not to consider it from the point of view of author specifically. If I refer to I.A. Richards' practical criticism, where the author has been excluded from the context of reader. So that's another point of view. The point of view, who is telling the story, first person point of view uses I, means the narrator uses I, went there, I did this, I did, and is told by one of the characters of the story, means that the person, the narrator, or the point of view is of that person who is narrating the story. Third person point of view uses an unnamed narrator who knows what all are most, and this is called omnipresent, omniscient and omnipresent narrator, in rare cases there is this second person point of view in which the you second form second person pronoun you is used. Then what is plot, skeleton or frame works that give give shapes and proportion to the novel. We have discussed that in drama as well at rising action and production and conflict development and those types of conflicts. So they are all working here in the plot of the novel as well. Then what do we mean by characters? Moving spirit of the novel, because it is because of characters that the story is moving ahead. If there had been no characters in the fiction, the story won't move, the plot won't move. But what are the qualities? Some not mentioned here, but generally it is said that the characters in novels must be human beings and they must be lifelike. They must have the all the feelings of human beings like hunger and thirst and love and hatred and jealousy and fear and courage and cowardice and so many. So all human qualities must be there within the character of human being. Therefore, character is not having human traits and divide of emotions and feelings, then that would be a machine and not a character, not a human being. And this is one of the reasons that E.M. Foster placed instead of characters, he's placed this thing with people. So morality, literary criticism, personality includes speech, hairstyle, hobby, attitudes toward work, and all the complex attitudes and feelings that define the individual as a human being. So a character must have that thing. Then what is setting? The setting describes where and when the story takes place. It helps build background and create images in the mind. It helps set the tone or mood of the story. And certain details can describe time of the day, time of year, time in history, scenery, weather, location, and one thing which is missing here, that is culture. Culture is also very important because culture is also part of setting. If one is writing a novel about India and the culture portrayed in that novel is that of American, so this setting will be wrong. And similarly, if a novel is written about Los Angeles or New York or any other Western city and there people are uh, wearing simple clothes and they are devoid of fashion and they're simplistic in their attitude and they are very careful and modest and simplet in a sense, then again this setting will be. So culture is also a very important part of, although we can place it in time of history, but even then or location. But when we talk of setting, then culture uh, and environment of that place, they're also very important in this. The next important element of this is point of view, already referred to, but who is seeing and what is one seeing and what is the capacity of it. In most of the cases, point of view comes from the narrator in the fiction. Every story is told using a point of view. Through whose eyes does the author tell his or her story? Who is the narrator of the story? This is a point of view. So, first person point of view, second person point of view, and third person point of view, third person limited. In first person point of view, the story is told in first person pronoun. Like it is like if you are reading an autobiography, someone has written his own life story, and you are reading, and it begins with like this. One day I entered a shopping mall, and I saw that this thing happened. Then I waited there for that time and took that person to hospital, and then that happened, and the family members of the person came, and I came to know that they had this. And now the narrator is narrating the story, and he becomes a part of uh, the story, and he is involved, engaged within the story, working with other characters. So this is first person narrative, first person point of view, and this is perhaps the strongest because in this case the point of view is of that person who is practically participating within the framework of a story or within the framework of the novel, and is a participant in all the actions and incidents, and then so it is a bit more authentic compared to any other point of view where a person is not personally involved in things. So the kind of validation is given to first person uh, point of view. Then the second person point of view, this is rarely used, but it's a very good, and in that sense it is used in the sense of one that is kind of, you may call it indefinite pronoun, where the person is not identified and the speaker is addressing. You think, what I remember is the reluctant fundamentalist. There, you think and you think and you think, and but that is a mixture of first person because the Chinggis Khan is using first person pronoun as well, and he is referring to the listener by you as well. So that's a mixture of first person point of view and second person point of view. Then the third person point of view, which is the most popular among all novelists across the world, and it is perhaps because of this that uh, the validity and authenticity of the story will be destroyed if personal first person pronoun is used, and the personal engagements and likings and dislikings are included into it. So it's better that the narrator has a detachment from whatever is taking place in the story. So that the narrator is not influencing the events of the story, and neither is it the case that the incidents or the events in the novel are affecting the narrator. So there is a kind of detachment in the narration and in the narrator. The narrator is detached from the narration. But the advantages are there that in this case, the narrator is actually omniscient, mean that he observes everything and everywhere, and he is omnipresent. Everywhere he is present. So whatever is taking place in the story, that is coming from a third person point of view, is only an observer away from. Like there is a circle around the story, and this third person narrator is standing outside that's a circle. While in the case of first person narrative, that person moves into that circle and he becomes part of the story as well. So this validity, authenticity may be disturbed with that. Then we move towards themes in novel. There can be many themes. We cannot restrict them to a few. This example is just of one novel. That is the Middlemarch is a novel, and we have a number of themes in this. One is self-discovery, that the character discovers the real self in the process. Love is another theme in it. Money is another theme. Social position is another theme. Marriage is another theme. So there can be many themes in the novel. In any novel, you can have a number of themes. And you can interpret it according to your understanding, your experiences. In the light of readings you have made on themes, and in the light of readings you have made on themes as well as on novel. So this is for this today's. Thank you very much listening to.